Welcome back. This is Justine from the Layton Township Library, and we're going to continue reading through Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We're on chapter 3, so if you haven't heard the other 2 chapters, I suggest you go back and listen to them, or you might be confused. So without further ado, chapter 3, A Cactus Race and a Long Tail. They were a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds with draggled feathers, the animals with fur that clinged to them, and all dripping wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with a Lorry who turned sulky and would only say, "I'm older than you, and must know better." This Alice would not allow without knowing how old it was, and the Lorry refused to tell its age. There was no more to be said. At last the mouse, who seemed to be a person of authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I will soon make you dry enough." They sat down, all at once, in a large ring, with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get dry soon. "Ahem," said the mouse, with an important air. "Are you ready? This is the driest thing I know. Silence all around, if you please. William the Conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, and was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders, and had been accustomed to usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of America and Northumbria." "Ah!" said the Lorry with a shiver. "I beg your pardon," said the mouse, frowning but politely. "Did you speak?" "Not I," said the Lorry with haste. "I thought you did," said the mouse. "I proceed. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of America and Northumbria, declare for him, and even Stigand, the patriot Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable." "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it," the mouse replied rather crossly. "Of course, you know what it means." "I know what it means well enough. When I find a thing," said the duck, "it generally a frog or a worm. But the question is, what did the Archbishop find?" The mouse did not answer, but hurriedly went on. "Found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling to meet William and offer him the crown. William's conduct at first was moderate, but in the insolence of his Normans—" "How are you getting on now, my dear?" It turned to Alice. "As wet as ever," said Alice in a melody tone. "It doesn't seem to dry me at all." "In that case," said the dodo, solemnly rising to his feet, "I'll move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies." "Speak English," said the eaglet. "I don't know the meaning of half those long words. And what's more, I don't believe you do either. The eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered. What I was going to say, said the dodo in a more offended tone, was the best thing to get us dry would be a cactus race. What is a cactus race? Said Alice. Not that she wanted to know, but the dodo had paused as if it thought that someone ought to speak, and no one else seemed inclined to say anything. Why, said the dodo, the best way to explain it is to do it. And, as you might like to try the thing yourself, some winter day, I will tell you how the dodo managed it. First, it marked out a race course in a sort of circle. The exact shape doesn't matter, it said. And then all the party were placed along the course, here and there. There is no 1, 2, 3, go away. They began running when they liked and left off when they liked. So it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had begun running half an hour or so, they were quite dry again. The dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over!" And they all crowded around panting and asked, "But who has won?" The question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought. It sat for a long time, with a finger pressed upon its forehead in the position in which you usually see Shakespeare in pictures of him, while the rest waited in silence. At last the dodo said, "Everybody has won, and all must have prizes." "But who is to give the prizes?" the chorus of voices asked. "Why, she, of course." The dodo pointed to Alice, and the whole party crowded around her, calling out in a confused way, "Prizes! Prizes!" Alice had no idea what to do. In despair, she put her hand in her pocket and pulled out a box of comforts. Luckily, the salt water had not gotten into it. She handed them around as prizes. There was exactly one apiece all around. "She must have a prize for herself, you know," said the mouse. "Of course," the dodo replied gravely. "What else have you got in your pockets?" he asked Alice. "Only a thimble," said Alice sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo. They crowded around her once more, while the dodo presented a thimble, saying, "We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble." And when it had finished this short speech, they all cheered. Alice thought the whole thing absurd, but they all looked so grave that she did not dare laugh. And as she could think of anything to say, she simply bowed and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. The next thing was to eat the comforts. This caused some noise and confusion, as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last. They sat down again in a ring and begged the mouse to tell them something more. "You promised to tell me your history," said Alice, "and why you hate C and D," she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be offended again. "Mine is a long and sad tale," said the mouse, sighing. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice, looking with wonder at the mouse's tail. "Why would you call it sad?" She kept puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. Fury said to a mouse that he met in a house, "Let us both go to law. I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. We must have a trial. For really this morning I've nothing to do." Said the mouse to the cur, "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge, would be wasting our breath. I'll be the judge, I'll be the jury," said the cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death." "You are not attending," said the mouse to Alice severely. "I beg your pardon," said Alice humbly. "You have got to the fifth bend, I think." "I have not," cried the mouse sharply and very angrily. "Not," said Alice, always ready to make herself useful and looking anxiously about her. "Oh, do let me help you undo it." "I shall do nothing of the sort," said the mouse, getting up and walking away. "You insult me by talking such nonsense." "I didn't mean it," pleaded poor Alice. "But you're so easily offended, you know." The mouse only growled in reply. "Please come back and finish your story," Alice called after it. And the others joined in chorus, "Please do." The mouse only shook its head impatiently and walked a little quicker. "What a pity it wouldn't stay," sighed the lorry. As soon as it was out of sight, an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, "Ah, my dear, let this be a lesson to you never to lose your temper." "Hold your tongue, Ma," said the young crab sharply. "You're enough to try the patience of an oyster." "I wish I had our Dinah here. I know I do," said Alice aloud, addressing to no one in particular. "She'd soon fetch it back." "And who is Dinah, if I might venture to ask?" said the lorry. Alice replied eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. "Dinah's our cat, and she's such a capital for catching mice, you can't think. And, oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as look at it." The speech caused quite a remarkable sensation. Some of the birds hurried off at once. The old magpie began wrapping itself up carefully, remarking, "I must be getting home. The night air doesn't suit my throat." And the canary called out in a trembling voice to his children, "Come away, my dears. It's high time you were all in bed." On various pretexts, they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. "I wish I didn't mention Dinah," she said to herself. "Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. Oh, my Dinah, I wonder if I shall ever see you any more." Poor Alice began to cry again, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a pattering of footsteps in the distance. She looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse had changed his mind and was coming back to finish his story. This is where our chapter ends. Thank you for listening. And until next time, keep reading.